Cheers. Happy Friday. It feels very lively here in New York City. And I'm getting invited to parties. I'm like, should I go? Because y'all know I'm not really a party girl, but I don't know. I may. We'll see. We'll see. So I'm responding to an email reply that I received. When did I receive this? Let's see. This actually is a follow-up from a post that I received, an email that I received from a Caucasian man who lives in the UK with his partner, who happens to be from Hong Kong. He is 39 years old, and he sent me a reply in gratitude because I had included his comment, his email in my previous video on Pan-Africanism versus interracial cuckolding. So the title of his email says, "Hello and thank you." I'm like, "Aw." I like when people are very thankful and show appreciation. I mean, who doesn't? So I'm going to read you guys what he says, and I'm going to address some things he talks about in his reply, because he begins to elaborate even more about his current relationship. Now, is he married? I know he mentioned he's 39 years old. No, he says his girlfriend. Girlfriend, much different than wife. Alright, so I'll give you guys a briefing on what he said initially when he sent me the email that I responded to in my previous video. And then I'll go into reading the most recent email that he sent. So he gives some demographic background information on who he is, saying, "I have quite an intense job and have to often assume control and make decisions." So it makes sense, right? I can identify with that, especially as a submissive woman who holds a very challenging job in mental health. And it's funny because I just had a conversation with this potential person who assumes that my job is easy compared to his. He says, "Oh, your job is easy though. I have to deal with customers." I'm like, I have to deal with clients, but I don't look at it as having to deal with them, right? I work with clients. I treat them. I'm careful with the language that I use. And he goes like, "Yeah." I said, what makes your job so stressful? Because he's saying he had a stressful day at work. Granted, he works in hardware. He's like a locksmith, but he does other things, I think, for the company, right? And I'm like, all right. So I'm trying to understand, like, okay, what makes your job stressful? And he's like, "Yeah, dealing with the customers." And I'm like, okay, what is it about the customers that makes your job stressful? Can you elaborate? Because I don't want to assume anything. So he's like, "Yeah, the people, they're rich white people." I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess in his mind, he knows, right, what makes his job stressful. But it's difficult for him to articulate that. And I guess him saying that they're rich white people, I should just automatically like, all right, I get it. They're rich and white. Enough said, right? But no, I wanted him to say more. I'm like, okay, these are the same people that I live around. Like, he works supposedly in my neighborhood, which came to my surprise. I'm like, hold on, yo. It's something kind of creepish. You're coming a little bit too close. You're hitting too close to home, telling me that where you work, right? Yeah, so I'm like, I still don't get it. I just don't get it. But anyway, but yeah, he assumes that my job is less stressful than his. I'm like, what do you think I do? I mean, he knows that I'm a psychologist. I'm like, what do you think I do? So he is funny because he's like, oh, it's not like it is in the movies. Being a psychologist is not like how it's portrayed in the movies. I'm like, I wish. I'm like, yo, I evaluate, diagnose, and treat people with mental illness varying on a spectrum of severity, right? So, do I need to say more? But anyway, I digress on that. But I understand in terms of working in a field, having a high stress inducing job, career. Yeah, when you're in control, you're making a lot of decisions. Like sometimes you want to just be told what to do because you're the one in charge of many people's lives. And you just want someone else to take charge of your life. It makes sense, right? So he goes on to say in his previous email, I have learned that I find myself desiring, and I didn't read this. This email that I'm reading now, I read at the end of my previous video on Pan-Africanism versus interracial cuckolding. So he says, I have learned that I find myself desiring a more submissive sexual lifestyle and have developed a very strong cuckold desire. I agree with one of your videos where you said essentially cuckold men are bi/gay. In my personal scenario, it is true, but confused by the fact that I am not really attracted to men in terms of fancying them and have no desire to kiss them and be with one in a one-on-one scenario. I've already addressed this, right, in the previous video. I'm all about being clear, right? Moment of clarity here. Now, to me, as I already said, you don't have to have a desire to kiss a man, to fancy them, or be with them in a one-on-one scenario. What is a one-on-one scenario? Are you saying like in a relationship, involve relationship with a man? Is that what you mean by one-on-one? Because I'm questioning this because I'm going to read his new email that he sent actually 7 hours ago this afternoon at 12:39, and it's not giving me the vibe that he doesn't want to be with a man in a one-on-one scenario. It actually gives me the vibe that he wants to be with a man, right? And a man only. And I've talked about this before. The real reason white men become cuckolds. It's a backdoor approach, I think, to homosexuality. Listen, that's just my theory. That's my belief. But it's a backdoor approach to homosexuality because, yeah, of course, homosexuality is stigmatized. I get it. Men are expected to be dominant, alpha, masculine. And homosexuality doesn't encompass or represent any of those attributes necessarily. It can, but how it's been promoted and popularized in the media, in our society, across the pond, across the waters, that's just not how it's perceived. Homosexual men are perceived as like weak and girly and sissy and gay. But you don't necessarily have to be that way. So I think sometimes men are a bit confused themselves, right? He even mentioned it. He says, yeah, I agree with you where you said essentially cuckold men are bi-gay. In my personal scenario, it is true, but he's confused. So he admits that he's confused. You are confused because you are wrestling with your internal truth on who you know that you are and what your true desires are. You're wrestling with that against this idea of what society thinks and how society perceives you to be as a homosexual man, right? The label homosexual, there's a lot of stigma surrounding homosexuality. So it makes sense why you would be confused because you're trying to integrate who you are with this preconceived notion of how society thinks homosexuality is and what it looks like and what it should be, right? It's cognitive dissonance. Don't be confused. I get that you are confused now, but I think it's helpful for you to work through that confusion. He says, I am not really attracted to men in terms of fancying them. Like, you're not attracted to men in that way. But it's clear that you are attracted to men on a sexual level, right? Fancying them, like wine and dine, how you would interact and treat a woman who you're trying to impress, right? You're not interested in men in that way. But you have desires, you have these fantasies, you have these thoughts on seeing yourself with a man. I don't know if you've been with a man before, right? But you have these sexual desires. I think that nothing wrong with sex. I have to be clear. You guys know I'm about embracing one's sexuality. Stand tall in who you are. But that's only one component of who you are, right? It feeds into a greater picture of who you are as a person. That's only one aspect of who you are, your sexuality, right? It doesn't take away from who you are as a man. I more desire being topped. What your videos have taught me is that despite my needs, my partner will have her own interpretation of my fantasies. Yeah, we all come with our own interpretations. I'm giving you my interpretation, right? It's not about right or wrong. It's about perspective and understanding that different perspectives are okay. It provides enlightenment, insight. He says, owing to your videos, I am much more mindful and considerate of her needs and desires. Now, that was the previous email that he sent. This was back August 20th. Now, fast forward to today. He goes, hello, Danielle. I just had a really pleasant surprise when I saw this afternoon that you referenced my previous emails, which I just read, in your video entitled Pan-Africanism versus Interracial Cuckolding. I'm very flattered and grateful. Thank you. He's just so respectful. This is how I know the difference between people who have dignity, who are respectful and respecting, right? And it's usually professionals like himself, which he admitted that he defends people in court. He's a lawyer, an attorney in the UK. Versus people who just, listen, I'm not here to judge, but I had to freaking put someone in the spam folder in my Gmail account because they keep bombarding me with unwanted emails, right? I think sometimes people misconstrue my tendency to be very open, receptive, friendly, inviting, interactive here in my videos. They get it twisted, right? And they create these fantasies in their own mind about who I am, these ideas about who I am. And this one guy, he just taking it way too far, yo. Like, listen, we're not friends. I don't really know you. We're not friends. You know, he has this idea that I'm going to be involved with him in a cuckold relationship, and he's being very, vulgar, and sexually explicit in his emails, almost to the point where it reads as porn. And I'm just like, listen, enough is enough. At one point, I was curious, and I was responding to what he had to say from a few of his emails, and it just got to a point where I'm just like, no, I'm sending him to the spam folder. No. I'm sorry, but I'm above this. Like, no, I can't. I cannot, okay? As patient as I try to be. All right, so let's continue. He says, it was strange listening to someone narrate my thoughts and interpret them, but also fun and gripping. Isn't it? Very, right? I've tried to be very tactful in my responses. Not to demean anyone, berate people, make them feel insecure, though I may trigger some insecurities that are inherent within you, right? And if you feel a certain kind of way by what I'm saying, a certain kind of way being uncomfortable, then that is an area of focus that you can revisit. I encourage you to, because there's something there in you that more likely than not has nothing to do with me and what I said in response to what you've mentioned in your email to me. So he goes on to say, you summarize in detail some of the comments I made incredibly well and accurately. Thank you. I try to be very calculated in what I'm saying in my interpretations. And if I don't know, I'll say I don't know, right? But you can correct me if you feel that I'm wrong, which it's been done before where someone said, you were right about this, but no. And I challenge that person to dig a little bit deeper, because sometimes I think it's difficult for a person to see inside of you something that you haven't yet discovered within yourself. So it's one thing to be seen, because I think we all desire to be seen, right, by another person. Who wants to be completely invisible? You want to be seen and understood by another person. But it can become threatening, or it can feel threatening, I think, to a person who hasn't quite yet become aware of who they are and certain aspects of who they are and why they are, what drives them to be who they are. And when another person is outside of them, seeing those things and articulating those things to them, that can feel very uncomfortable. You're like, whoa, you know me better than I know myself. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a minute, right? I found it funny because I just had an interaction with this goddess on Instagram. And she identifies herself as a witch. Stanley says, very good point. Yeah. She identifies herself as a witch, you know, who does like witchcraft. I put that in quotation marks, right? Because we know the practice of witchcraft has been demonized, you know, and looked at as a bad thing when initially, traditionally, it was like a African spiritual practice and still is, right? But anyway, she does that, and, you know, she reads people, which she believes that she's very good at. And she, you know, was reading me and telling me things about how she sees me, what she's picked up on, you know, based on her abilities to see into people. And she said some things and used some descriptive words that I guess she thought in her mind I would take offense to. But I'm like, one thing about, and I think this is great in training to become a psychologist, and just being in tune with yourself, right? I'm already in tune with myself, but part of my training as a psychologist, and they make most psychologists do this, where we are required to undergo our own psychotherapy and see a psychologist, not a master's level psychologist, but a doctoral level degreed psychologist, licensed psychologist, right? And so I've been there, done that. And it's refreshing to know who you are, know that self, because when you know who you are, right, that's the benefit of therapy. A lot of people shy away from therapy, but it just helps you to gain a deeper sense of who you are. No one can really tell you who you are. And even if they try to tell you like who you are, right, and they could be right, it's not going to feel threatening. You're not going to be alarmed, right? And it enhances your interpersonal relationships, you know, when you have a deeper awareness of who you are. So I'm just like offended by what? Like, I know who I am. I'm very transparent in my vlog, so that also helps too. So it's just like, I can't be exposed, right? Whereas her interaction with other people that she's reading, and she does her readings like publicly on her page, they're like, oh my gosh, and they're cringe, and they're just hiding. Why are you hiding? There's no need to hide. I like, listen, I'm who I am. I know who I am. I accept every part of me, right? So I thought that was interesting. But it's rewarding to know who you are. He says, yes, I desire being a bottom to a man, and I accept that that is a homosexual and gay / bi desire. And you're right, though. Labels and boxes of description don't matter. I mean, not necessarily. What matters is how you see yourself. Like, why does it matter? Like, I think as people, obviously, it matters for people to categorize people, put them in the box, right? It's something that our mind does automatically. I think I talked about this in terms of stereotyping. And it's done out of survival. So you know who you're coming up on, right? Especially like living in a very populous city, you know, yeah, it's important to know, like to be able to kind of categorize people, right? You see a person dressed in all black, wearing chains, it's like, okay, that your mind automatically associates that with like goth and BDSM, like, okay, that's that type of person. Then you may see a black person dressed in Ghanaian cloth, and you're like, all right, they're maybe not as threatening because maybe they're in tune with their African roots. And you may see a person dressed with their pants sagging, and you're like, oh, okay, like the mind automatically makes these stereotypes, right? These kind of like assumptions in a way, but it's out of survival, right? It's an adaptive mechanism. So you know who you coming up on when you're walking down the sidewalk, right? They're not foreign. You can identify with what you see. So it matters to that extent, but it doesn't matter in terms of you living your life and just being you. Especially at 39 years old. All right, so let's go on. He says, whilst I am not good with UK accent, so don't expect me to do any kind of UK accent. I just can't. He says, whilst I am white and my girlfriend Chinese, I only fantasize about her cuckolding me with a hung black guy. Now, for you guys who are new to this channel, or even new to the concept of cuckolding, basically cuckolding is where typically a male partner and a female partner have consented to this arrangement where she is fucking other men. And he then becomes the cuckold in that relationship. The man is typically a black man, or a well-endowed man, shall I say, who is identified as the bull, right? The driving force, the power, that brings that sexual power to that interpersonal relationship, that triad. And of course I have some things to say, but I'm going to read what he says. I only fantasize about her cuckolding me with a hung black guy, and I have no desire to penetrate her. Now this is where I was like, okay. Okay. No desire to penetrate her. Ten-year relationship. Now, he will remain anonymous. I do invite you guys to share your thoughts on this email. What do you guys think? That's not the end, though. I have to take a pause. This is not the end. This is like halfway through the email. But I'm just taking a pause because I want you guys to share. What do you think about that? Stanley says, you'd be surprised what people be into over time. Right. And how many of us are walking around with masks. Literally and figuratively speaking. Walking around with masks. A facade of who we portray ourselves to be. To fit into society. To gain approval or acceptance. Initially from our family, and then beyond that from our peers and the people around us and the world. So I paused there because I'm going to say what I think when I read that. It's a way where they trust each other from a deeper level. It sounds like there's a degree of trust here, especially we're talking about a 10-year relationship, right? But I can also see a propensity for other issues to be at play in this relationship that may not be spoken about. Now, I'm not here to generalize, but from my experience and my research, and my experience, right? This is from experience and research and working with Asian people, women, shall I say, they are very conservative. Like, they're not as outspoken as other types of women. Especially like in America. I feel like American women are probably the most outspoken, liberal, free women that there is, right? Hence feminism. Like, American women are just free. Just speak our fucking mind and speak our mind to men uninhibitedly. Like, we just say what's on our mind. I'm not saying it can't cause problems, of course, but I'm just saying though, whereas like women from other traditional cultures such as like Asian, they can be thinking a thing, going through a thing, feeling a thing, experiencing a thing. And this also goes oftentimes for like African women too, indigenous African women. And they just keep it inside. They don't share, you know. They don't share it with their especially male partner. They're not gonna tell you. But they will like agree, you know, yeah, I know this. I work with like Asian clients, yo. They're sweet though, like they're very sweet. Asian women. And I know it sounds like a blanket statement, like, oh, Asian women. So I know some women may comment, oh, not all Asian women are the same. No, but we have to speak to the common characteristics of this particular demographic, ethnic group. Because there are common characteristics in any ethnic group. That's just what I've observed, right? So he says, I have no desire to penetrate her. Now, he can choose to respond to this video post through email if he wants to follow up. I invite him to. He doesn't have to, right? It's his choice. He do what he want to do. But I invite and I welcome him to follow up because I have some questions here, right? Like, we're having a dialogue now. It makes me wonder, have you ever had a desire to penetrate her? And it also makes me wonder, what is your attraction to her? Because you've been with her, you said, for 10 years. So what is your attraction to her? Now, I know as a female partner, the female energy obviously serves a purpose to the male energy in many aspects. Could be for cooking, domestic duties, you know, like cooking and cleaning and, you know, just providing companionship. That female energy kind of helps to balance the masculine energy. It makes sense. And some people engage themselves with the opposite sex, because that's just what society expects you to do, right? That's just tradition. Your parents did it, their parents did it, their parents did it. So, all right, it's your turn. Now it's your turn to find a woman. So go out there and get a woman and be with her. So he says, I recognize that I'm massively failing to attend to her sexual needs, but she is quite conservative. Listen, I knew that before I even read it. She is quite conservative. Yes. That's just how Asian women are brought up. Right? I mean, what's the likelihood that they're going to challenge their husband, their male partner? That can be a very attractive trait, though, in a woman, you know, to be submissive, to be very agreeable with the man, to not challenge a man, you know, just to accept it. Just accept it. Whatever it is, right? She is quite conservative and doesn't express sexual desires, and never really has done throughout our 10-year relationship. She don't express her sexual desires. She probably even express anything. Her complaints, her thoughts, her fears, her disappointments. I mean, if she's not expressing her sexual desires, it just sounds like she's muted in that relationship with a lot of other things, right? Because usually how a person shows up in one aspect of a relationship is how they show up in other aspects of that same relationship. It just makes me wonder, how happy is she in this relationship if her needs aren't being met? And not just her sexual needs, but, you know, emotionally, psychologically. Like, what is going on here? But it can just be the norm, because if she's that way with you, she's been primed to be that way for any relationship that she's in, based on her child rearing, right? How she grew up. Just take it. Just deal with it, right? Yo, that's where the women's rights movement came about, you know. Now, I'm not saying I'm in alignment with everything that the women's rights movement is about, feminism, because I know so many different branches of it, and some of that shit is kind of extreme. So I'm not here to say, oh, I'm a freaking proud feminist. Like, no. I'm just saying I understand the reason why certain movements in America have emerged. Because, yeah, women have been objectified and, you know, kind of demeaned, reduced to just like an object that is at one's disposal to be used however the person wishes, right? The man wishes to use that object. And it's just like, God damn, that seems so dehumanizing, right? Because women, we have feelings, we have emotions, we have desires, we have, come on, we're human, just like men are. So why aren't her wishes, desires, thoughts being validated? And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying for the person who sent me this email that, oh, you're the blame, you're the one to blame, right? Like, you're at fault. Like, no, this is who she is, regardless, irrespective of being with you. This is just who she is. That's just their culture, typically speaking. To feel very repressed in her emotional expression. All right. And never really has. So he says, you know, she's quite conservative and doesn't express sexual desires, and never really has done throughout our 10-year relationship. She always distracts with technology, not dissimilar to myself. That's a double negative. Sometimes I have trouble with uncomprehending, interpreting double negatives, yo. Not dissimilar means basically like yourself, right? Why do you just say like myself? Why do you have to say not dissimilar? Not dissimilar means similar to, right? Gosh, you're making me overwork my brain here at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're saying basically she kind of like distracts, and distraction could be a coping mechanism. So she's dealing with that, and you recognize, so it's good that you are in tune with her, that you observe this happening within her, right? You know her well enough, I mean you should, 10 years, to see that she kind of represses her desires and is conservative, in your words, like you said, and she deals with that by technology. I don't know what's her go-to, right? What's her guilty pleasure? We all have guilty pleasures, right? Like Instagram, Facebook, or whatever have you. He says, you have reached about to a number of black guys. That's the thing about like people from England, UK. They just use different words, and you're like, what? Like I follow this girl, right, who is from the UK. And I like the way she says like one. The context in which she uses like the word one. They don't say like you very often. Like one has to. I mean, are you saying you? You have to? Like you're talking to the person, you. But they'll say one has to do this. I'm like, okay. And then he says, yeah. I have reached about, basically he's reached out to a number of black guys as potential play partners. Because you're the head of the household, right? Like you're still taking the lead. Though you want to submit, that's a leadership role right there. You're reaching out, you're initiating this, right? You're setting this thing up. My girlfriend is willing to play if she finds a guy attractive. So you convinced her. Stanley says she could also been dealing with depression or anxiety and traumatic experiences from young and needs to find herself. He goes on to say, I believe she was never her own person from young, and as she got older, she lost herself in the process. Yeah, as do a lot of women. Yeah. Her best bet is again to go out and build a social life. Well, it don't really matter how long you know a person, because every decade, in theory, people evolve. You're saying people involve or evolve. Some people don't evolve though. I went home to visit my family, right, and I spent most of the time with my mom, who is 68. Her ass ain't evolved. My mom is stuck in her ways. She is the same woman that she was when I was 5, when I was 12, when I was 21, 35. Like, she's the same, okay? Some people don't evolve. They're just the same. All right. No, let me take that back. Let me stop. I'm not gonna be that facetious. Now, my mom, like, for the most part, her personality, a person's personality is who they are. That's just who they are. So my mom is very outspoken. She's just, tell it like it is. Like, I think much of what you see here of me is a reflection of my mom. She's just no holds barred, like, very strong backbone type of woman. But I think she has evolved in a good way, to the extent where she's more understanding and more compassionate. I'm like, okay, because I didn't get that when I was growing up, and even after I ran away from under her tutelage. It's like, yeah, I didn't get compassion from my mom necessarily. So, but I sense like more compassion in her actions, you know. So I'm like, oh, so sweet. But anyway, all right. You said my girlfriend is willing to play if she finds the guy attractive. That's what I think you convinced her. You was like, will you do this? Of course she's gonna say yeah. Now answer me this. How many times you've asked her to do something and she said no? Probably very few times. If any. So what does that say? What does that say? She can't say no. Or she doesn't feel comfortable disagreeing with you or saying no. So, is she truly consenting to this? Or does she feel compelled to? You're not in trouble, by the way, alright? I know I'm using certain words that may trigger certain reactions, like consent, right? The whole Me Too movement. No, listen, this is just an innocent exchange that we're having here, right? That's your woman. So what you do with your woman really is your business, right? And you are so kind to share your experience with your woman. Because she can get her ass up and leave if she wants to. At any time, right? Or can she? Can she? No, I'm messing with you. But you said she's willing to play if she finds the guy attractive. I have shown her a number of profile pics. So this is what, like, I have, it's a rhyme, it's a reason to what I'm saying, right? This is why I'm saying this, based on what you're saying here. In this next sentence, you're saying, I have shown her a number of profile pics of potential play partners, and she hasn't been keen on any. And so I haven't pushed the issue. Cheers. You say it depends on the generation in terms of one's ability to evolve. I don't know. It's just human nature. People are typically set in their ways. And that's just how people are. I've studied people long enough to know. You know? Not a bad thing that people do things out of routine. It becomes a program that is embedded in our DNA. That's why you can do things kind of monotonously, mindlessly, not even thinking about it. And you do it very well because it's become automatic. To do something different than what is routine requires a degree of awareness and effort. It takes more energy to do something different than it does to do something that is routine. Not to say that change is impossible, but change is very difficult for people. Anyway, you've shown her all these pictures of men that you want her to have sex with, potential play partners. But you mean to tell me, I don't know how many pictures you've shown her, but you mean to tell me she ain't like not one? Not one? She doesn't want to do it. It reminds me, I was in Florida, right, for 10 days. I just got back a couple days ago. And I came up with the idea, oh, let's go out, right? I'm telling my cousin, my younger cousin, she's in her 20s. I'm like 10 years older than her. I'm telling my older sister, who is 3 years my senior, like, oh, let's go out. I mean, it sounds good, right, in theory. Let's go out. Let's have fun. Girls' night. On damn well, I'm not really the one to go out. I will go out, but I'm not really the one, right? So this is how I know I really didn't want to go out. It's very clear, right? It's like we will say things and do things, but our subconscious mind drives the bulk of our behavior, right? And so it was subconscious things that I was doing, but I made myself aware of it, right? So my mom was like, oh, what you gonna wear? I was like, I think I'll probably just wear like my Bob Marley dress, right? Which y'all have seen me in, right? And she was like, oh, we can go, because we were just sitting around the house just like wasting time, and it kind of got boring. So it was like, oh, you want to go out and find, you know, something to wear? And I was like, all right. So we went to the St. Augustine Outlet Mall, right? And they have two. They have an indoor and outdoor. And nothing grabs my attention. Like, nothing really, like, resonated. Like, and they got so many stores out there. But it's like, we went, like, in a good number of stores, right? And she's showing me things like, oh, how about this? You like this? And it's just like, nothing grabs my attention. Now, one can say, oh, because there was nothing there, nothing appealing. You know damn well that's not true, because they got so many stores and variety, right? Or you can easily just, it's common sense that I didn't want to go. Because guess what? When a person wants to do something, nothing really can get in the way. Even if the stores didn't have nothing appealing, I would have found something there. You can put something together out of all those stores. Put something together to make it, right? To make it do what it do. To go out. If I truly wanted to go, I didn't really want to go out. And my mom sensed that. She was like, all right, let's just go. And it started raining. She was like, okay, let's just go. You know, we walked enough, right? And then we had already went to the indoor. We went to the indoor outlet mall first, and then we drove across the street and went to the outdoor mall and just got all the way down to the end, shy of maybe 5 or 6 stores. And then that's when she was like, all right, let's just turn back around, because no. What's the point? And so that goes to show, you show her all these goddamn pictures, and not, you mean tell me not one. Now you can also say, oh, she's just very selective. You're asking me, am I the middle child? I am the youngest child. I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, and I am the youngest. But it's like, not one picture. No, you say you show her the number of profile pics, right? You showing her, how about this one? How about this one? How about this one? She's like, no. I mean, think about this, though. It's not to say that none of those guys are attractive, right? I'm sure they are. But just think about it. Let's pause. We gotta pause right real quick. Pause. Is anything kind of like ringing a bell? If it is, like, comment below what you're thinking. What's coming to your mind as we dissect this scenario here? Because it makes me wonder, like, I'm putting myself in her shoes, and I think it will behoove you to put yourself in her shoes too, so that you can gain an understanding. Because obviously it's difficult for her to express how she feels, especially when she knows it's contrary to what you want for her, right? So in that case, put yourself in her shoes. And if it's difficult for you to imagine yourself as a 39-year-old white male in her shoes, I don't know how old she is. I don't think you said her age. If it's difficult for you to put yourself as a 39-year-old white male in her shoes, right, as an Asian woman, maybe you have sisters. maybe, you know, you have some type of female energy in your family that you are close to, that you care about. Because I know not all women in your family you probably give a damn about, right? But there's somebody, at least one person, right? And I'm not saying that this activity is a bad thing. I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm saying for a person whom this activity is new to, right? Apparently it's new to her, because if it wasn't, she would be with the shit. She would have already been did it. It's new to her, right? She's never done this before. And you are showing her an array of men, potential play partners that you desire her to sleep with. Okay, so does anything come to you in your mind that spells caution, that spells, hold on, wait a minute, that she may be thinking? Because apparently it ain't come in your mind as your 39-year-old white self, but I mean that she may be thinking, that is leading her to have reservations outside of her cultural upbringing, right? Outside of that, just being a woman with a man that she's been with for 10 years, and you guys live together. That's like a marriage. I know you're not legally married on the books, but that's pretty much a marriage. Living together for 10 years. You're married. Sharing the same space for 10 years with a person, the same bed for 10 years. Come on. And putting yourself in her shoes. Sex is a very intimate thing. So you're asking her to open herself up. Open her legs up, right? Her womanhood up to men that you think are attractive. She don't know these men. But you're wanting her to have sex with these men. Or pick one, right? One of the men. But it's still a random ass, who the fuck is you? Who does you, what? I'm going to have sex with you. Who? Who are you? I don't know you. How is this going to go? These are profile pictures. You said she's consented to it, but she didn't really consent to that. She agreed to make you happy. There is a difference, right? A person can consent to make another person happy, but not really consent to the means by which it requires to make them happy. People do it all the time. I'm just doing this, okay, to make this guy happy, but I don't really want to do this shit. I'm just doing it because I care about his happiness. So that goes to show her level of love and respect for you. Her level of commitment and loyalty to you and that relationship. Because she has agreed verbally to do what it takes to make you happy. Even if it makes her feel uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And uncomfortable, like, that's an understatement, yo. She probably feels disgusted. Not even yet having had sex with any of these men that you're showcasing to her. She probably feels disgusted. Maybe I'm just projecting my own thoughts, right? But putting myself in her shoes, perceivably, she probably feels disgusted. And afraid. By the thought of this thing happening. Women and men oftentimes should see sex differently. I'm not saying all women and all men. But more often than not, women look at sex different than men. Y'all look at like, oh, it's just sex. Just fuck. But for a woman, it's like, no. This is my flower. Right? And it becomes a sacred thing where, okay, if we do allow a man to have sex, to penetrate us, like, damn, we develop feelings. We care about this person. It's not just some random Joe off some site that you found these people from. Like, what the fuck? And then knowing that this is a desire of yours. It's not just going to stop there if she does it, right? So we got to break this thing down to understand what is driving her reluctance to just do the damn thing, right? You said she's already consented to it. But has she really, though? And she is like, what the fuck? Because she knows it's not going to be your first and only time. You're going to get enjoyment from seeing her get fucked. Get the dog shit fucked out of her. Because any black man that is giving any black man, right, who is with the shits, right, which like a lot of black men probably would be like, shit, who wouldn't? Man, this is get to fuck a man's wife, hell yeah. I don't know what she looked like though. I don't know what your partner looked like, but shit, some men don't care what the face look like. Pussy is pussy in the eyes of a lot of men. So you're going to gain satisfaction if and when it goes down, right? You're going to gain satisfaction from this first encounter of seeing her get banged out. You know damn well that's not going to be the first and last time. She knows this. So, before she physically consents to this and goes forth with it, that's a lot to prepare her mind for, because she's like, damn, am I really ready for... I mean, I'm trying to pull the words out, right, to put to this thing, because this is going to be like a back-to-back sexcapade. Like, is she ready? Did she sign up for this when she met you, right? Did she know that this is what you had in mind? And you may say, oh, that was 10 years ago. A lot has changed. I didn't think about this. I was just exposed to it from videos and whatever, right? On the internet. And I wanted to try it out with her. But it's just like in her mind, I'm just trying to position myself in her mind. It's just like, damn, did I know I was going to be doing this? And then now, if I agree to it and I do it for the first time, he's going to want it over and over. Am I mentally prepared for this? Because a woman's mind is different than a man's mind when it comes to sex. What goes through a woman's mind is much different than what goes through a man's mind before sex, during, and after sex. Is different. Her reaction is going to be different than your reaction. It's just different after she's had sex with the first man. She might feel used, disgusted, abused. Even though she said, okay, I'll do it. It's like, you know. But who knows? It could be the opposite, right? Could be she might feel a mixture of feelings. She could feel disgusted, dirty, because that's how she's been socialized to look at sex, especially sex with some random motherfucker you're not married to, you know. But then maybe she might feel good, like, damn, I feel thoroughly pleased, sexually satisfied, because you mentioned that you ain't laying a dick. You said that you haven't penetrated her. So, she might have the time of her fucking life. And she might be the one asking you, like, let me see that phone real quick. where those profile pictures at that you had? Hold on, let me see. She might be coming to you before you come to her to set up the next date with a new man. Who knows? But I think it's worth exploring, like, her reluctance to it and being sensitive to that, right? Having a discussion around that, because it is confusing. Like, on one hand, she says yes, but then her actions aren't aligning with her words. Like, okay, which one is it? Right? But I respect that you say that you haven't pushed her, right? And you haven't really pushed the issue upon her, though it is a desire. But I think a great way, and I think I mentioned this before in a previous video, a great way to invite her to this discussion without coming off as though you're pushing the issue upon her is to genuinely express concern for her satisfaction in that relationship. All the way around, too. And I know that can be difficult for her because she's probably very agreeable. Just, oh, I'm happy. I'm good. I'm good. That is the most challenging thing, I think, for me as a psychologist and working with clients who are more inhibited and more reserved, conservative, and have been conditioned, trained throughout their entire life to just wear this facade. Oh, I'm good. Everything's good. Everybody didn't grow up like that. Some people really grew up in healthy, supportive environments where they were able and encouraged and reinforced to express their emotions, no matter good or bad emotions. In quotation marks, because no emotion really is good or bad. Emotions are emotions. They're human expressions of what we feel on the inside, right? So there are some people who grew up in healthy, nurturing environments where they were afforded that opportunity, and to the contrary, there are a lot of people who just, no, we didn't get that opportunity. Especially like in black households, African American, like, you better not express how you feel, especially if it's bad or negative. Keep that shit to yourself, but don't bring that shit over him. So, having that discussion, yeah. I'm not trying to simplify it to say it's going to be easy. Because it's like kind of trying to pull teeth. I experienced that with some of my clients, you know. Some clients were very emotionally intelligent and knew what emotion they were feeling, able to name it without my assistance. Just, I feel this, and I feel, they're very expressive, very articulate. And some just was like, the only word they had to describe their internal state was good. I'm good. I'm good. Okay, I'm good. So yeah, that can be a challenge. Therapy can help with that though. I like the truth of your video that I have just watched this afternoon, and the micromanaging of a partner so that they don't get affected by potential others, which creates a change in behavior and thus the relationship. Yeah. So I talked about like the rationale behind why people oftentimes, are kind of overprotective, right? Always kind of like looking over their shoulder, wondering what their partner is doing, because subconsciously we are aware that, anything could impact and change that dynamic that you have established with your partner. Any interaction. What your partner watches on TV, what they listen to on the radio, a conversation that they have with a coworker at work. You know, you can know if you're really attuned to your partner. You know, like, you're a little bit different today. Something is a little different, a little off. Who's been in your ear? Someone has been in your ear, right? If you're really paying attention. He says, Cuckold opens that up, and some. It's a real fear. Anyway, I have provided far too much information and taken up too much of your time. I mean, I'm with it. Like, I don't entertain every email that comes to my inbox, but, if I feel like an email is genuine and a person is, transparent and respectful, then yeah. Which I feel that you have been all the above. So why not? Why not? Let's have a discussion. He says, really enjoy your videos about this subject and your ability to diagnose the issues. Listen, I ain't diagnosing y'all. I'm not but I guess, yeah, the issues at hand. But I wouldn't say I'm diagnosing. I would say I'm analyzing what's happening and dissecting the issue, thinking about it in a analytical way and interpreting it, you know, from many different aspects. But anybody can do that, right? He says, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully see more videos on your channel. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Then he goes, P.S. I am a human rights attorney. I think I asked him, I was like, I wonder what type of defense attorney he is. And he says he is a human rights attorney, a.k.a. solicitor. I'm like, I wonder how much do human rights attorneys, solicitors make in the UK. Let me stop. I do know that 100 euros equals 120 US dollars. What are you saying? You say 10 years too long to be girlfriend and boyfriend. Says who? Says who? Alright. What do you guys think though? Feel free to leave your comments below. This was fun. It's not the end though. I hope you don't feel offended. I mean, you work in law. You gotta have thick skin to work in law. Much like working in mental health. So I think you can digest my words safely. And sleep well at night after watching this video. For the person who sent me that email. Relationships are fun. I mean, y'all already got 10 years under y'all belt, you know, so you're already established. Whereas like in other like scenarios that have come across like my email, people are like, oh, we're like 3 years in, like 3 years, you're kind of still just getting to know someone. Granted, you never really know a person until you know them, but 10 years is much longer than 3 years. I feel like that bond, you guys have a kind of a solid bond there. She seems like a good woman though. Don't take advantage though. It seemed like you're just having fun. But yeah, I did want to address, you ain't off the hook. I ain't forgot. I do want to address this notion that you're saying you're bisexual. As if you are attracted to men and women. Sexually attracted. Because we're talking about sexuality here. Bisexual. Homosexual. Heterosexual. Hetero is being attracted to the person or people of the opposite sex. Right? Hetero. Opposite sex. Homosexual. Same sex. Sexually attracted. Keyword. Sexually attracted. And bisexual, obviously, you go both ways, right? Now, with you being with a woman, just because you've been with her for 10 years don't mean that you are bisexual. Because you even admitted that you don't have a desire to penetrate her. You said that. You don't have a desire to penetrate her. You don't have a desire to penetrate her. But you have a penis? I mean, is your penis working? Maybe that's too much information. I mean, hey, we're talking about your relationship here, right? You're talking about your sexual proclivities, right? So no one knows your name. I don't, even though your name is visible in the email, I don't know you. I will never know you. I don't have that much time to investigate who you are. To me, that's not of interest to me at all. It doesn't pay my bills. But anyway, it's like, on one hand, it kind of seems like you're hiding behind the idea of being with a woman as like a cover up. I mentioned this before. And that's fine, right? So to the public, you know, you're perceived as a man, heterosexual man. Because God knows how they view bisexual and homosexual men in the UK. I don't know how they view them in the UK. I spent all my life in America. I have a passport though. I'm gonna travel. I need to get my ass out of fucking America, yo. Just go out and explore and learn different cultures. Really immerse myself in the culture, not just reading about it or seeing a video about it or a documentary, but really putting myself there. But I can imagine it's just kind of like a global thing where people have this negative perception of gay people, especially gay men, and so, you know, maybe that would affect your career, you know, how if you were to come out as a gay man or even a bisexual man. But it's clear that you don't have a sexual attraction to her, because you mentioned that you don't satisfy her in that way. She's not satisfied, and like, you don't have a desire to penetrate. So how can you satisfy a person that you don't even have a desire to have sex with? How can you sexually satisfy a person like that? You can't, right? And you're saying that you want her to have sex with men of your choosing, or her choosing, but it's kind of, you are leading the way. And then what? How do you gain sexual satisfaction from that? Being like a voyeur, watching. I know voyeurism is a fetish and people get off on that, but it's beyond that. Come on, yo. You say you like being topped, right? You like being fucked by men, dominated by men. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying though, you didn't go on to say, you didn't talk about that desire, right? You didn't talk about your desire to be topped by men, right? That's what you like. You didn't talk about that as it relates necessarily to you're trying to get her to engage in the cuckold thing. You didn't mention that. Like, it sounds like you're saying, okay, I have this over here, I like being taught by men, as if that's something you do. You're saying, like, you know, you created that separation. You're saying, you went on to say that, okay, not as if I want to be with a man one-on-one, and I'm assuming by yourself, like it's just you and him. But you put that separate. You notice the structure of how you shared this information, your scenario, right? You put that separate, and then way down in the email, you go on to talk about you wanting her to have sex with other men. But why not include that to say you want to have sex with these men as part of that process of her being fucked? I mean, let's just keep it real. You want to allow her to get her nut and be fucked by these men, but you really want to be fucked by these men. So you're coming off as if, okay, you don't want to be selfish, right? So I'll share some of my food with you, because I don't want to appear like I'm selfish and just eating it all by myself. So here, you can have some of these men, right? Here, take a look at some of the pictures. Here, choose. But I'm definitely going to enjoy and get mine and pick which one I want. That's how it comes off. And that's what it is. And if that's what it is, that's how you should put it out there. A person can sense when someone is not being genuine. women, we have an innate ability to be able to do that, right? It's just inbred within us. It's in us. Her spirit, her subconscious, her being can sense that you are not being 100% honest with her. You're not. And maybe it's out of fear of the unknown, not knowing how she's going to respond if you just come right out and let her know. But you know what it is. That's what you led the email with, that you like being topped. It's really about your desire. You admitted it. You confirmed it. It's about your desire. That's what's driving you to do the whole cuckolding. But what's the point of having her? I mean, I get it. Okay, maybe domestic duties. All right, companionship. You know, a trophy. So that when you go out in public, you know, you look good. I've heard like this podcast where men have openly come out and say their reason, you know, for wanting to be with a woman. And they say, you know, it's not that, oh, they really want to be intimate with a woman. Some really don't even want to procreate. They just utilize a woman for the purpose of having a woman. Just to say, okay, I have a woman because it is associated with a type of reputation. It gives you your reputation. It kind of feeds into your reputation, your image as a man. Because without a woman, what are you? But to have a woman on your side, yeah, it adds to your perceived value in society that you live in. So, listen, I'm not with you, okay? I'm just saying, though, like, this is the face that she probably would be making. We have to laugh at life, because sometimes we so uptight, right? We get so tense. We gotta laugh. Just let that shit go. Life is not that serious as we like to make it out to be. And life is really what you make it, right? And how you perceive it. You create your own reality through your own perception. And so, we can be here one day, gone the next. Why live so uptight? Sounds like you do care about her, though. Like, set aside the sex part and the cuckolding and you wanting to be top. It sounds like you do really care about her, though. Yeah. Because how the hell are you going to be with somebody for 10 years? I don't know what her role is in society. What does she do for a living? But to be with a person for 10 years, sleep, share the same bed, and not care about them? Nah. Hell, I don't see how would that even be possible. So, you care about her. She's your friend. Not maybe your lover. But she's your friend. So. Human rights solicitor. Human rights attorney. What does that mean? What does that entail? I know you want to keep your work separate, but you did say as a PS. Okay, you said PS. I'm just saying though. Like, I would imagine you care about people. care about people as a human rights solicitor, or attorney, defender. Not, people aren't just men though. People are women too. That includes women. And seeing women, you know, as such, as humans, right? Who have feelings, emotions, and can have agency over their own thoughts and their decisions. And being that person who cares about people, though she has been raised a certain way growing up in Hong Kong, is, I think, helpful for you and her, you know, just to really like see what the hell is in her mind, because I feel like she keep a lot of shit in. She don't get the space to like come out and share. She keep a lot of shit in, and that is getting in the way. That's why she looking at them pictures like, it don't matter how many times you show them pictures, she gonna have this like, it is not go. But listen, we're gonna end this video here. We can come back and say more, but I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. Have a great night. It's nighttime over here, so I'm saying have a good night. Love you guys.